We have just 2 races to go before we hit the playoffs for the Circle B Diecast Superspeedway Series. Both of them will be at this racetrack, but tonight we will be in the Group C trucks. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. For the first time in a month, I'm back here on the broadcast, and you know I had to bring back my broadcast partner, Nate Siefker. Nate, welcome back for both of us. It's going to be a fun night here.
Fun night, fun combination, and I'm looking forward to it. These guys put on an excellent show with these vehicles. They put on an excellent show at this track. Great combinations, make for great racing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 23 drivers, I believe, if my count is correct, as we get set to go here tonight. As I had mentioned, we are just a couple of weeks away from the playoffs here this week, then next week, and then we get into the playoffs. We'll take a look at the overall point standings right now as these guys have a little fun at the exit of pit road. Zach Bowerman leading the overall point standings. Right now, just 4 drivers are locked into the chase for the championship. Zach Bowerman in the 9, Greg McConey, who actually would be leading the points going into the playoffs, Connor Trafari, and Chris Worrell, the only 4 guys that are actually playoff eligible or have clinched a spot in the playoffs coming into tonight's race.
Yeah, and that's extremely important for these 2 races here before the playoffs begin. That's an opportunity for them to really kind of have 2 free nights in a sense. You're there to have fun and maybe learn something for the playoffs coming up here. So take some lessons and figure out, what works and what doesn't work with these cars here for the playoffs.
And that also came with the news today. There were a lot of changes that happened here with the series and with the point standings over the course of the weekend. Drivers that will not be completing in the playoffs due to not meeting the minimum race requirements of 11. Michael Anthony, who has a couple of wins this season, Elijah Innes, who won the opener, and Scott Warren, who has a win this season also. Those guys will not reach the 11 race cutoff, and they therefore will not be eligible for the championship.
And that's massive news because that opens up 3 additional spots for guys who haven't won a race yet this season. There's plenty of people here that have met the eligibility rules that just haven't won a race yet. So that opens up 3 additional spots. And of course, we have 2 races left. So some people are going to get in on points. As long as you're being consistent and competitive, that's a massive moral boost for those guys.
Absolutely. We're coming down to the final 10 seconds here of this practice session. Coming up next will be the 1-lap, 5-minute qualifying session here as the aforementioned Chris Worrell, the fastest driver on track. There he is in that Balls Energy number 6. Also, another guy that we had not mentioned in the Open, making his second appearance of the season, the 31 of Marcus Adams. Now, he was a contender. He was a part of the Final 4 for the Superspeedway Championship last season, decided to take the big bulk of this season off. Now he is back as of 2 weeks ago at Talladega in the Cup cars, coming back just before the playoffs, possibly could be looking to help Chris Worrell win that championship.
And that's a massive boost for Chris Worrell, of course. He's not playoff eligible, but having that assistance from Marcus there, that should be a massive advantage to him, considering the fact that you got a friend who has nothing to play for that's going to be at your rear end helping you out if needed. So having that in the back of your mind should be a great mental boost for Chris as we continue on into the playoffs as well.
I think Chris Worrell, actually looking back through, yes, Worrell is eligible for the playoffs. I think, yeah, he is. Okay, so he will be trying to help his teammate win a championship. As Connor Trafari, something there he did not like about that opening lap, so he decides to abort. We go now to the 22 of Aaron Tribble, who you had mentioned just before we had gone on air with how good he was doing when you and I both stopped broadcasting this series, and we turned it over to Sam and Byron. A guy who was doing so well, surprised he hasn't gotten a win yet this year.
Yeah, and it's extremely surprising because we've seen him in the top 2, the top 3 for a lot of our races that we broadcasted, but he just seems like he always has like a last lap gaff or something like that. He just can't quite seem to just get that final piece of that puzzle. And at the moment, he is in a good spot in the standings. Of course, it looks at the moment he is going to get in on points, but you still don't want to leave that to chance. You want to lock that in. So I think in these two races, you have to be smart if you're in Aaron's shoes. You can't lose points off of a crash, but you still need to be, aggressive to wanting to get on top of that pylon and win a race.
Jumps up into second on his qualifying lap. Does Aaron Tribble as a bunch of times come across. Here comes the 43 of Dan Brazington. And Brazington was another one of those guys who is now points eligible to make it into the playoffs, currently sitting 16th in the standings in that 43, and he'll put it in fourth. Marcus Adams, as we had mentioned before, there he is grinding to a halt. He will sit now in the second position as we go now to Connor Trafari, who is on a lap he feels better about. Fastest of all the first half of the lap, that 48 looking really good.
Yeah, Connor's been really strong in these opening races of the season, and it looks like he's just got to keep that momentum going. Like we mentioned, he is locked in as well, kind of the same boat as Chris Worrell. So this is a chance for these two races as he goes up to P2 to kind of just learn more and more and absorb as much knowledge as possible going into the playoffs.
2/1000ths of a second. Connor Trafari misses the pole. Shane Newens crosses the line in 13th position. Let's take a look at Brandon Wilson in the number 501. There he goes, flashing through the screen. As Wilson, beautiful looking Bass Pro Shop scheme, looking chrome tonight. Going to try to take that apron. Will successfully, and this lap time for Wilson will be good enough to put him up into the top 10, up into 9th, as now we switch over to the 4 of Nick Kessler for JD Motorsports.
And Nick has looked strong in a lot of these races too. It seems like he just hasn't quite got that final piece together yet. He goes with P7. So he needs to be able to really just kind of get that final piece. He's in the same kind of boat as Aaron Tribble. Kind of just got to get that last piece together, it seems like.
As there goes Cruz Hernandez Jr. and GT Park will cross the line. However, this will be an inconsequential lap since he did not get across the start-finish line with at least 51 seconds left, and so this lap will not count for GT Park. While he goes around this racetrack here at the end of this qualifying session, let's take a quick look at the team championships going into tonight's race, and this one is pretty well stretched out with Dudes Racing leading by over 500 points over Strictly Stock Motorsports, and it fits since Ryan Worley's having a fantastic season in the 00. Jason Papp and Brandon Wilson are kind of up and down, but Greg McConey really flying the flag for that team with the 3 wins, and again he will have the points lead going into the chase for the championship. As the cars begin to grid up, let's take a look at the starting grid for tonight's race here at Daytona International Speedway. It'll be Ernie Ludwig taking the pole for the first time this season, edging out Connor Trafari by 2/1000ths of a second. Greg McConey and Marcus Adams will sit in row 2. Row 3 goes to Jason Papp and Shane Posey. Row 4 goes to Florida's Nick Kessler and Dan Brazington. Aaron Tribble and Zishan Dura will make up row number 5. Brandon Wilson and Joe Gautier in row number 6 there, Nate.
Byron Rodney, ESPN's own, he'll roll off in 13th place with Mark McFadden alongside of him in 14th. Dustin Loxton, he'll roll off 15th with Shane Newens. He'll roll off in the 16th position. Cruz Hernandez, he'll start off row number 9 alongside Chris Worrell, the first of the non-qualifiers. He'll roll off at 18th. Michael Anthony and Zach Borman, they'll share the 10th row and 19th and 20th respectively, with GT Park and Ryan Worley in 21st and 22nd. And it seems like every time we do a broadcast, John Lombard rolls off in the 23rd position. I'm sure he won't be there for long.
No, most likely will not be, as the final 6 drivers set by iRating as we get set to roll off here for what would be round number 12 of this season. Before we roll on off, I'd like to remind you that coming up here on ESPN tomorrow afternoon will be the eFormula 3.5 series. They will be at Virginia International Raceway, VIR, at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time for round 2 of their 3rd season. On Sunday evening will be the Medieval Racing League, coming to you live from Phoenix at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. The Rowdy Energy Cup Series will be at Talladega this week on Monday night at 8:20, and then the first end of our Tuesday doubleheader will be the MX5 Pro Series at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for UK Sim Racing. That will be at 2:50, and then the Western States League will be the nightcap, I believe, if I remember correctly. They will be at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and later on in the broadcast we'll get you what's coming up throughout the rest of the week here on ESPN. But for right now, about to start 75 laps here at Daytona. As you saw in the opening graphic there, twice these guys have been able to pull off caution-free races. 2 weeks ago at Talladega in round 11, and then the last time these guys were here in the trucks here at Daytona at night, they were able to do it. That was their first time this season. Could we see it happen again?
Yeah, that was a fantastic finish to that race. We had a lot of cool Camping World paint jobs that time, so hopefully the Camping World fixes in and we hopefully can have that exact same result. But hopefully, I think this race should be just like last time we were here with this combination. Should be really fun. Hopefully it's nice and clean as well.
And also that incredible save by Aaron Tribble, I just remembered.
Yes.
In that race, as the lights are out on the Pace truck as we get set to go. It will be Ernie Ludwig and Marcus Adams on the front row here tonight. Round number 12 tonight and next week to determine who will be in the playoffs. Come 2 weeks' time. Green flag is in the air. 75 laps here from Daytona is green.
That was a fantastic start there by Ernie, but it looks like that top lane is kind of struggling a little bit to form up. But it's interesting to see, these guys have been really good with these trucks. The trucks aren't as high powered as the Cup cars, of course, so these starts are really important compared to those vehicles.
Nick Kessler electing to start from the pit lane, so he has up and left. I believe that is, I can't quite tell who that was going backwards. I believe that might have been Zach Bowerman in the 9 that elected to go backwards, and that's, I guess you could call that a Dale Earnhardt tribute in the number 9. Starting to work his way towards the front has Dustin Logston on the inside of him, as back up at the front, side by side for the race lead at the opening lap, Ernie Ludwig.
This top lane has started to get formed up pretty well. As Marcus gets to the point, he'll sweep to the bottom, just clearing Ernie there. But that top lane with Posey looked really strong as there's contact between the two of those guys.
Yeah, boy, they get really, really close up here, really, really early, as we will ride now on board the 1 of Jason Papp, taking Circle B Diecast along with us here tonight. Sitting right behind his teammate Greg McConey on the inside. You can see just how much these trucks are moving. Now these guys will have gotten used to this new aero package by now. Still, doesn't make it any easier as the two dudes racing trucks head up to the outside.
You can try to get used to something, but you just never quite get it right, especially when it comes to air and drafting. It just always fluctuates a lot. But those two guys on the top side, McConey and Papp, they're doing a fantastic job. It seems like if you get those top two guys at the top connected really well, that's the place to be at the moment.
We had the Jason Papp tribute last week, his father passing away, as he will now lead the outside line, leave Greg McConey to lead the inside line in that questionable Purdue Boilermaker number 12, as now Shane Posey heads up to the outside, or working the outside, trying to get Jason Papp up to the lead in the number 1. It looks like he will, but Papp getting a little loose coming out of 4. Oh, there they
There's
go,
a lot of
Posey.
questionable. Oh, there they go. They're going to clean each other out.
Yeah, they do. As Posey tried to follow Pap down to the inside. And just a lot of nothing good happening there. As that's Zishan Dura. Well, the back end of that number 10 is really knocked out. GT Park at the 78 just taking it to pit road, and that right there is why that man, Nick Kessler, decided to start from the pit lane.
I was just about to make the comment, too, that there's a lot of interesting pushes going on. There are a lot of quarter panel pushes that weren't quite straight. And I was about to make the comment that people weren't quite clear moving yet. And turns out that was exactly what happened there. So it's a little unfortunate for a lot of these guys having, lap 5 getting involved in this incident, though.
Not sure if Posey was actually trying to get to the inside or what happened there. Either way, Posey ending up with a big hit, and we'll try to ride on board here. This is with Shane Posey. Look at it from overhead. Ernie Ludwig involved, Aaron Tribble. Boy, Zishan Dura took a huge hit. GT Park, it looked like Joe Gauthier was involved in that as well. See if we can take a look.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we'll see if we can try to find a view. This is on board of Zishan Dura. Right up and over, and he got a big hit from Joe Gauthier.
Yeah, I was about to say that it looked like Posey was almost like hypnotized at the fact that Pap went to the bottom. He kind of started going down and realized a little too late that there was still someone down there. That's how it looks like to me. Now, does that actually happen? I'm not sure. But to me, just from the outside looking in, that's how it looked.
A lot of guys involved in this one early. Is Zishan Dura, who you're riding on board with now, and you can see that memorial decal to Jason Pap's father on the front end of that number 10. And he will somehow make it back without needing to tow. As Jason Pap now will take hold of the race lead with Dan Brazington in second, and that appears to be Cruz Hernandez Jr. running in the third spot.
I thought Byron Rodney was involved in that wreck, but apparently not, because to me it looked like he took a pretty decent shot to the front end of that truck, but he somehow doesn't have any damage to it.
Yeah, there were a couple of guys that had the beneficiary of a little bit of lag on their side. Byron Rodney was one of them. It looks like Joe Gauthier in the 67 is another. He hit Dura hard, and he's come out crystal clean. So a couple of guys benefiting from spotty connections.
Hey, that happens. So you got to take them when you get them. So at least some people call that the Nate Siefker hack, but I disagree with that.
So from what we could see, Brandon Wilson, Shane Posey, Aaron Tribble, Ernie Ludwig, Zishan Dura, and GT Park all involved in that incident. Connor Trafari is a very interesting case because unless I had missed something, it's showing Trafari has yet to complete a lap. As a matter of fact, he is at negative 1 lap completed right now in that 48. So, Nate, did he disconnect prior to the race starting?
I thought I saw him pit start, but I haven't. As for what's happened since then, I could not tell you.
We know the 4 of Kessler pit started.
But he definitely was a negative lap, which is very interesting because if he pit started, he should be on lap 1, and he's on lap 1 now.
It's
So
He's coming out of the negatives right now from what I can see on my timing and scoring. When I saw him, he was at negative 2.5 laps completed, which is, to me, that would mean that he possibly throughputed right as they were getting to grid.
just by looking at it appears, yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened, but it is it did look like he did throughput.
So we're about to get back to green flag racing here. Jason Papp, Dan Brazington on the front row. Byron Rodney and Shane Newens on the second row, as this race has now changed its complexion here in just the first 5 laps. As Papp will have Rodney in the pushing lane behind him. Pace truck is off. Papp, there he goes. Green flag is back in the air, working lap number 8 of 75.
That top lane did not go at all there, so that'll be interesting to see how Brazington does all by himself. But the bottom lane, well, I was about to say it's only 3 cars. Now it looks like it's going to be a nice long line there, as it looks like Newens has got some issues here on the start.
I think Shane Newens might have been trying his best to get to the inside. Look who's had front end damage all season long and has somehow managed to make his way up and win some races. That 9 of Zach Bowerman, second car on the outside line, now first car on the outside line, has that front end damage, still working his way up through the front. Peaks down behind Newens, trying to get that slingshot, but will that front end damage hurt him? As another car with front end damage, Brandon Wilson's coming up right behind him.
You know, I'm convinced Borman has a hack on his computer. Once he gets front end damage, he gets about 3 extra mile an hour compared to what he usually would. It's incredible how well he does with the front end damage on his vehicles.
Almost won the first race of the season with no front end. Did that number 9 is now Nick Kessler. Pit start to the lead in only 9 laps. That 4 we know is quick. He's trying his best to get it up there. Can he clear the 1? I think he has, but he's going to wait until Bowerman has the all clear as well. They both move down to the inside line as Connor Trafari pushing the heck out of Chris Worrell on the outside.
That top lane all of a sudden developed really strong there. And usually in the trucks that doesn't really work, but it worked for those guys there as they're going to clear Wilson there. That was pretty impressive by those guys, to say the least, in order to make that work.
And that was that extreme high line really working to effect there as Brandon Wilson ducks to the inside in front of his teammate Greg McConey. As only 2 cars on the 2 trucks, on the outside line, Worrell and Connor Trafari. Again, Trafari not on the lead lap, not for position right now, pushing Chris Worrell up on that outside line. Kessler might be at a bit of a disadvantage with that front end of the 9 all beat up as it is.
Yeah, you know, if you're a Trafari, this is kind of good news for you. You're getting more friends for that, you know, the end of the season there. Now, although he is locked in kind of like Worrell is, but that's kind of the thing about it too. You know, if you two are in a need to work together situation in the playoffs, you know, hopefully Trafari's hoping that Worrell will pay it back to him.
Interesting look off that A pillar of the 48 of Trafari as Byron Rodney sits behind him. That's the 4 of Nick Kessler. Right dead center screen, Zach Bowerman in the 9. As Byron Rodney having a good run after getting a lucky escape there on that first incident. McConey sitting there behind him. These 2 lines have very successfully formed up here. Inside line still has a lot more people, but there's a competent group of guys on that outside now. Boy, Worrell.
Oh, that's a very sketchy push there. At the top, if you get them hooked up correctly, the top is the lane to be in, but you just saw the evidence there. If you get a bad push like Worrell just kind of got there from Trafari, it can spell disaster. So you kind of have to be nice and easy with it and try to be, you know, cautious. You got to realize if you're in Trafari's shoes, you are 6 laps down.
And that's certainly going to play a factor, as now he's going to jump up out of line Will Trafari to allow the guys who are racing for position try to race for the lead, as Byron Rodney now moves in behind the 6 of Chris Worrell. You saw there flashing by the bottom left of your screen, that was Shane Posey. who was damaged from the first incident. He's about to get lapped again here. There's a little bit of a gap here between the front 4 trucks, as Brandon Wilson with Mark McFadden in the 71 pushing him.
Yeah, it's kind of caused there by Byron Rodney. He kind of swiveled between both lanes and kind of had a little bit of indecision there in which lane he wanted to be in. He went from the bottom to the top to the bottom, now back to the top again. So it'll be interesting to see if Rodney, he's kind of been, whatever lane he's been in, has not quite been the producing lane at the moment, but he's back to the top. We'll see how this works out for him.
On board the 1 of Jason Papp. See, not really too much drama in that steering wheel of Papp as he gets the inside clear for a moment. Thinking of possibly jumping down in that 1. He will do just that. That truck looks to be very calm, very confident. Again, just not a lot of play in that steering wheel. He's doing just fine in that number 1 right now.
Well, it's pretty easy to be nice and calm when you're leading with no one to your outside or inside, but if you go back to the middle of the pack, it is not quite as calm.
Well, let's take a look. We'll ride on board then with Dan Brazington. Get you a very similar view on Dan's truck. Still not a lot of drama in that number 43 truck. However, he's not really getting pushed. He's not really pushing right now.
I would still want to be in where he's at, but yeah, you're like you said, it's not as sketchy. But when we get to lap 70 or 75, I guarantee you it's going to get a lot sketchier.
Absolutely, as we're working lap 14, about to start lap 15 here at Daytona. 1 caution coming out on lap 3.
Oh.
We almost have another one. Here is Kessler with a big save. The back of the field fans out, and somehow we stay green.
That was incredible. Worley was a big loser in that one there, but that was an incredible job by the entire field to recognize what was going on there and to get worked out.
It's the 0-0 of Ryan Worley you saw. Try to go back to that and see what happened. As we'll take a look at it coming off of turn 4. Kessler is going to get a big shot here from the 6 of Worrell coming out of the tri-oval. That's really going to send him wild, and again just pushes him on that right rear, puts him into the wall, and then the rest of the field scatters from there.
Yeah, that was an incredible job. Heads up driving. We talked about Tribble's incredible save in the pre-race here last time we were with these guys. That was a pretty good job by everyone else to do basically the exact same thing. Give everybody that needed to save it the room to do it so that we could stay green.
Very good racing from all of these guys. That's what we've gotten all season long. Look at the front end of Chris Worrell's number 6. That thing is bent up, all from just that little bump draft he gave to the 4.
And you got to think here too, we talked about Borman's front end of his truck. We say he's got hacks, but the hacks only goes so far, and it looks like he's kind of starting to put a little bit of a brake to that bottom lane there now that he's got 2 cars in front of him. He should be fine, but you got to think that damage is definitely doing something to him and his performance in that truck.
Yeah, that's different damage that Chris Worrell has on that number 6. That left front corner is kind of smushed down as compared to Bowerman, who has the front end of his truck pushed in. As these guys now starting to get back up together, as the 31 of Marcus Adams, again mentioned before, he was a championship 4 driver going into the season finale here last year. Came back, made his season debut 2 weeks ago at Talladega in round 11. Back here now trying to help his teammate in the 6, trying to push him up, or at least at this point look to ease him back towards the back of the field.
And the nice thing too is that Marcus was about lap 3 there of the race. He dropped to the back and he managed to avoid that big one there in the tri-oval. So that was very smart heads up driving by Marcus. There's a reason why he was in the Final 4 last season, and that kind of driving there, heads up, knowing the situation, gets you into those positions.
Going back to last year, that 31, we saw the the strategy that he had with the 8 of Michael Anthony, the 46 of Kyle Smalley, those guys would go right to the back of the field at the beginning of these races. And now they're getting a big run as there goes Jason Papp around. And
Oh, this is
another
a
big
massive
wreck,
one.
and this one's going to take out the rest of the field that wasn't taken out the first time.
Oh, no.
That was huge. Marcus Adams, we were just talking about him. Dan Brazington with damage. Byron Rodney with damage. And we'll take a look at this one because this one took a lot of cars out, and this might have been guys just pushing a little too far, a little too hard.
I was about to make the comment that that top lane was super spread out and was really converging really fast on each other there because Adams and Morel were pushing and those two jumped up to the top. And that looks like it just kind of just caused a massive stack up where they all got together at once.
It's, boy, Bowerman with another huge hit. Byron Rodney, boy, Byron takes a big shot here. Will ride on board with that number 75. You see the wreck happening in front of him, and Brazington just comes down, has nowhere to go, and hits that inside pit wall hard. It's from overhead following Mark McFadden, and it's already happening here as Mark makes it through. And from what I could see, there are only 3 drivers that don't have damage here. That's the 4, the 12, and the 71.
That killed a lot of people's nights there. That really is that took out a lot of people. That ended Brazington, Borman, Dueras, Rodney, Adams, Papp. I mean, that took out a lot of people tonight in just that one crash there.
Riding on board with Connor Trafari, who somehow works his way through that wreck. And we'll look at it one more time here from high above, and I think you're right in that it just, to me, it looked like that outside line had the run and just didn't stop it.
Yeah, they just couldn't quite check up in time by the looks of it, and that's a product of this kind of racing. You get that every now and then with people. It is lap 13 of a race, and you get people. They still are trying to learn for the end of the race, and at what point do you end up trying to learn so much that you cause enough chaos?
So another big accident. Again, from what I could tell, there's maybe 4 or 5 cars that don't have any damage left in this race. And we still have a good 55 laps to go before we get to the end of this thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with now the reduced car count due to this massive crash. You're going to see we're going to have smaller field, obviously, because of this now. But it'll be interesting to see if people are wanting to work together to try to just get to that lap 70 to 75 range.
So the order as it stands right now is going to be McConey, McFadden. Both of those guys are clean. Ryan Worley appears to be clean. So we were talking about him being the odd man out when Kessler almost went around. That definitely ended up saving his night, because he was right up in the middle of it. Michael Anthony, who we talked about being in the back. John LeBombard in the 95. I'm seeing a disconcerting amount of blue ovals, I must say, in the top 5 here.
There is a lot of blue ovals. You are correct in that statement.
Joe Gauthier in the 67. He appears to be clean. Nick Kessler, we know he's clean, minus that right rear, but that wasn't because of this incident. Possibly Shane Newens. Yeah, Newens in the
right rear is kind of.
Yeah, Newens has some damage, but that shouldn't be. Oh no, he's got more than it looked. So that's a count of what, 6 or 7 cars that we have
Yeah,
that are clean.
yep. And tell you what, who's really thankful for this is Connor Trafari. He went, we talked about him being 6 laps down due to a throughput. All of a sudden, he's in 12th place pretty quickly.
You're showing him in 12th. I'm showing him in 18th.
Well, he's gonna
He'll
get a lot more
moving up.
positions here soon.
Yes, he'll certainly be moving up, but that could also play poorly for Trafari because now with less cars that are going to be up to pace, that's less opportunity for a caution to get him back onto the lead lap.
Yeah, that is very true as well.
Well, Nate, bring us down.
Oh, I got the pleasure. Good deal. So it looks like Greg McConey, little reduced field. Hopefully we get a nice green flag run here as the pace truck nips down below the yellow line. The green flag is now out as McConey gets a good strong run with Nick Kessler behind. We're back under green here at Daytona.
Nick Kessler giving a nice push right now to Greg McConey. Ryan Worley not getting too much help from John LeBombard, and yeah, you're seeing this pretty much it as far as drivers that are running. We've got 9 guys up here in this front group. Well, 9 on the lead lap. Everybody else either in the pits or out with severe crash damage after 2 big wrecks here before the 3rd mark. Is now McConey getting a nice push from Kessler. John LeBombard on that inside trying to make it work into 3rd.
Yeah, not quite exactly going how I thought it would. I thought everyone would get single file here and kind of just ride it out for about 40 laps here, but a little bit of action there on that top side there. But it'll be interesting to see as this run goes on, we get close to the green flag pit stops here if we get to that point, to see how everyone really does with it.
So from what I can tell, GT Park, Zashawn Dura, Aaron Tribble, Zach Bowerman, Cruz Hernandez Jr., Byron Rodney, Dan Brazington, Jason Papp, Marcus Adams are all out of this race. Dustin Logston, I don't know what's going on with Byron. Oh, pardon me. Never mind. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Dustin Logston, or pardon me, Ernie Ludwig is the only other driver. My goodness. Ernie Ludwig is the only driver right now who's on pit road trying to repair his car. Everybody else who is not out on track is out of this race.
That's a lot of people. Over half the field in blink of an eye, basically.
23 drivers and 10 remain. As not a lot going on as LeBombard trying to get that outside line to work with Ryan Worley. Here comes Connor Trafari. Again, Trafari not for position in that 48 as now Kessler jumps up to the outside to try to get a push from the 95. And Kessler, I don't think Kessler led the lap, but he's certainly going to have the lead now.
And that's pretty strong from him. And John, we talked about, I said he starts last, but he won't be last. And look at him, he's up on the top side there. He's always that guy that just, we start the race off, we don't talk about him for about 20 to 30 laps. We'll make one comment about him, and then we'll be about 10 to go. And we're like, hey, look at this guy. He's back at the front. That's how John usually is. So it'll be interesting to see now with these less cars how racy he actually gets.
Is that Mr. Where did he come from?
Exactly.
He does have a little bit of damage. Nothing too severe on that front end of the 95, but you can see that seam on the front end. Whoa. Right where the hood and the fenders lead is now 3 wide. Almost had a lot more damage on that 95. As now that field will sort itself back out. And once again, Ryan Worley, the big loser in that, goes from second on the outside line to stone dead last in the pack.
We got to have some trucks to finish this race, boys. So Hopefully it calms down a little bit here. But yeah, a lot of these pushes, they get it so big of runs by the looks of it, and they just can't get it slowed down in time to contain it.
Now LeBombard will take the race lead after a nice push by Kessler. Kessler's getting a good push from Connor Trafari in that 48. As Kessler currently holding the lead of the race, and he will get the lead of the race on that lap. LeBombard not quick enough. And now Kessler will fall in front of the 95 to leave Trafari to lead that group.
And that's really good for Kessler there because he's got a lap car, Trafari, that's going to have really zero influence on his positioning, leading that top and kind of making it a bottleneck for them. So he can just ride that bottom, be the leader of this group, and just kind of just be nice and calm for a little bit here, hopefully.
Trafari right now in that 10th position, the first car on track that is not on the lead lap. The only car on track right now that is not on the lead lap. Running in the 10th position, so he has made up all of those positions that he lost. I'm sure he'd much rather be battling for the race lead right now, but still, top 10 finish, not that bad.
A guaranteed top 10 finish now at this point, so that is pretty strong.
Yep, absolutely. As LeBombard and Nick Kessler battle, what we're going to do now is we're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching round number 12 of the Circle B Diecast Superspeedway Series live from Daytona here on ESPN. Don't go anywhere. You're watching round number 12 of the Circle B Diecast Super Speedway Series here at Daytona, and our number 12 now is not doing all that well. I mean, he's in a Purdue car, so he kind of earned it, but still. So we'll take a look here. This all starts when they try to lap Shane Newens here coming through. I think I might have gone back a little too far here. Yeah, this all happens when they try to lap Shane Newens. There's the field. Here's Newens. They're going to catch him just going into turn one. And I'm not sure if he didn't know that they were coming or if he had an issue with that number 98. But either way, he's going to get himself involved here with Joe Gautier. So Gautier might have pushed up, and then he comes off the wall right into the 12 of McConey, and now we have 8.
You know, here you're these guys up at the front, this pack of 8, that has literally, we talked about the expanded playoff eligibility and the people that aren't locked in that are playoff ineligible. Kessler is one guy that you look at and say, oh my goodness, now he's in a prime position. Same with Wilson, same with John, Mark as well. I mean, there's plenty of people at this front pack who haven't locked in yet that are all of a sudden just licking their lips like, oh my goodness, I have a chance here. I think every single person here actually in this top 8 hasn't won a race this season.
I think because of that slight sabbatical, I don't think that Nick Kessler is eligible. I'd have to look back and see how
Neither
many
is
races
Anthony.
he's run. Yeah, Michael Anthony has won a race, but he's not eligible. We know that Trifari is in. Wilson eligible, LeBombard eligible, McFadden eligible, Worley and Gauthier are all eligible. So these guys can lock themselves in here with a win tonight. As Kessler now leading Brandon Wilson around on the inside line. We have 40 laps to go, and this is the field that we're left with.
It's a little smaller, isn't it?
I mean,
Just a little bit. And this has kind of calmed everyone down by the looks of it after that incident, especially. Now they're like, oh, we're not invincible. We have to calm down a little bit here. So this will be interesting to see if, everyone kind of slows down a little bit. We get to pit stops here and maybe sort ourselves out from there.
I don't dare make the sizes and everything joke. We'll take a look. This is the first big incident here that cut the field down. This is back on lap 4 between Shane Posey, the 16 of Ernie Ludwig, Aaron Tribble involved. And then the big one that came a little bit later on. This one here happening in the tri-oval. There's Jason Papp going around. There's the rest of the field. That was the second big one of the night, and that is the one that has left us with the field of 8 that we have now. So only 2 cautions tonight, but they were substantial in size.
Yeah, when you have a league that has 0 fast repairs for this race tonight, that definitely makes you a little bit calmer, you'd think, in these first 20 to 45 laps, and 2 just very unfortunate accidents. I mean, nothing wrong with the pushes that happened. There's just simple plate racing incidents, and you can see how quickly you can go from having a field of 23 down to 8 cars circulating here in a split second.
Yeah, it certainly has been quite a night here tonight for the Circle B Diecast Superspeedway Series. Nick Kessler, Brandon Wilson, Joe Gauthier, Mark McFadden, Ryan Worley, John LeBombard, Michael Anthony in this group here, along with Connor Trifari, who again is not on the lead lap. Here is the 12 of Greg McConey. He's trying to be a trooper about it. McConey, however, is very well locked into the championship, and at this point, barring another win from Zach Bowerman, would have the points lead in 2 weeks' time going into the chase. Is now the field about to catch up to the number 12.
I'd imagine if this was real life NASCAR, they would probably pull him off the track for not meeting minimum speed.
The pack right now is at 183. And McConey is doing a blistering 135.
I guarantee you that's flat out too.
I wouldn't doubt it. As there goes the field. And Greg will jump back up on the racing surface. See how much that right front is bowed out on that number 12 as well. That is not thanks to any setup adjustments. Certainly was an adjustment on that car. It just was unintentional.
I was about to say that's a heck of an adjustment, just not the right one.
It's one of those unintentional things. Is Kessler still leading that outside line really not working out, as now Trifari will be pushed to the front of the line by Joe Gauthier, and now Gauthier is going to be left alone on that outside line, and that will pretty much do it for him, as he'll go all the way to the back of the line.
It's really important for Trifari too, because now he's for sure, when they lapped McConey that time, now he is for sure, if we get a yellow, the recipient of the lucky dogs, and he just unlapped himself too. So he's kind of getting a 2-for-1 deal. If he can get a quick yellow here, the odds of it are not very good. But, he's a lot closer to being on the lead lap now than he was about 3 laps ago.
Best chance at him getting a caution really at this point, that would be meaningful for him, would be on pit entry. That would pretty much, he would need a caution on pit entry for it to be meaningful that the caution came out and that he gets another lap back.
Another thing too, you got to think about, we are on lap 40 of this race, 35 to go. You got to start thinking, okay, when maybe are these guys pitting? We're on 75% fuel flow with these guys. These guys pitted on that last yellow on lap 22. You got to start to think, okay, now pit strategy is going into your head. How long can these guys go? Can they make only one stop? Or they have to do 2 stops? A lot of that factor now goes in your head of, can we make this work on the strategy?
So the graphic on screen, the last time the top 5 came in was on lap 20. Now Mark McFadden came in on lap 20 and on lap 21. Came in on both laps to just top off, and that worked for him, certainly, sitting now in the 3rd position, as these guys are kind of just riding it out right now until the end of this race. And Brandon Wilson, honestly, even with the front end damage, is in the best position right now, because just beyond Mark McFadden is a teammate of his with no damage on his car. That's the 00 of Ryan Worley.
Yeah, that's good news for him. And you're making those mind games. Okay, I gotta have this person with me here. Where's he at? We're getting closer to the end, about 33 to go here, but that does go into your head about, when can I make this work potentially?
2 Chevrolets leading, then 4 Fords, bracketed by another 2 Chevrolets. As far as positions go, it's the Toyota of Connor Trifari that is leading the line. As this race, we know that Superspeedway racing is a test of attrition, but they certainly didn't mean it in this fashion.
So in order to get to the halfway point, in order to essentially split this race in half, is lap 47, which we're 4 laps away from. So I'd imagine we're only going to see one more stop, the final stop, the money stop as well, unless if these guys don't quite have the fuel flow to make it that far.
That could possibly be a situation as we ride. Oh, here they come now.
Guess we're going to find out.
Yep, there we go. As the entire group, I mean, you may as well at this point.
Just call it a competition yellow at this point.
Yeah, essentially right. So everybody comes in here. That's incredibly generous of you boys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Trifari has the furthest pit stall up. Who's that moving in the background? That's Worley. It's the first one to move, and it looks as though everyone comes out in the same order they came in. 4 tires and fuel, I must say.
So now this is interesting how people cannot make it to the end. So they got one more stop to go unless we get a yellow here at some point. So that's going to go into their factor here. When do I pit?
If you remember the Medieval Racing League race this past Sunday, 2 guys tried to make it all the way to the end on fuel, and both of them ran out coming out of turn 4 on the final lap. So we'll see who can stretch it and who is going to be forced to pit. Kessler, Worley, Wilson, Anthony And then, unfortunately, it looks like the rest of the group has broken off. There's the other three of Gautier, McFadden, and LeBombard. As those guys can sense a win.
And those back three, I believe, will catch them. It's just going to take a little bit longer to do so. But, you know, they are significantly far back. 3 seconds, pretty much. But you got to think, too, you're in your nice little pack here. You can communicate with each other, figure out what you can do.
3 seconds and gaining exponentially right now. As we'll take a look. This is Michael Anthony, who's at the back of this group. Take a look at the time delta back to Joe Gautier, and you could just see that time delta rising and rising and rising and rising very, very quickly as this race continues on. However, the battling here might help that trio's cause back there.
Yeah, you'd have to say so, and that's a significant delta, half a second basically, that one lap. So, you know, you have to start thinking how many people are actually competition win this race. You say it's a 4-horse race at this point, as the 4 horses are side by side of each other.
It's quite literally a 4-horse race at this point, as Brandon Wilson jumps out to the race lead. He's battling the 4, not the 48. And now Ryan Worley, with his teammate up on that outside line, is going to make it 3 on the outside versus 2 on the inside. This battling is certainly going to help that trio. And Wilson right now has the race lead, doesn't have the inside line clear, and also has a good amount of front end damage, not helping his cause. As far as leading this line, he might be in a situation where he's going to have to rely on somebody to push him, as now Trifari is going to bow out of this.
It's an interesting strategy from Trifari. I think at this point, you know, he's kind of realized, okay, I had the lucky dog in hand. There's no really point for me to be racing the leaders this hard per se. So that's smart from Connor to kind of just play himself smart so he can have the potential to gain a lot more points in case if something does happen.
We talk about how young Aaron Tribble is, being just 13. Connor Trifari isn't much older. Connor Trifari is 15, and that was a very wise move by the 15-year-old, because I know if I were 15, I would be very much in this to race. And even at 28, that's still, I don't know if I would have made that move.
Yeah, it's a hard move for someone our age to basically make that, because you want to win every race, of course, but you know, when you're in a position like Connor, you're racing for, you know, laps under your belt at this point. 5 laps down, not a whole lot to gain. So if you can gain the same amount riding in the 5th car in line compared to being the leading car in line, you might as well just be nice and calm and just kind of just float around, have a drink of water, and just go about your day.
Speaking of having a drink of water, I think that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You are watching the Circle B Diecast Super Speedway Series, round number 12, here from Daytona International Speedway. We'll be back in just a moment. Tonight's broadcast of the Circle B Diecast Superspeedway Series is brought to you by diecastnuts.com. Post your own diecast collection, add or trade to it in the shop, and see other members' collections at diecastnuts.com and on Facebook at diecastnuts. And by Rocket Racing Setups. Rocket Racing Setups is one of the leading setup builders for the iRacing community. Find dirt and asphalt setups, tuning guides, fuel sheets, and much, much more at rocketracingsetups.com today. Tonight's race is also brought to you by your series sponsors, Rowdy Energy, Circle B Diecast.com, Midwest Motor Customs, iRacing iFlag, and Butt Kicker. And the series thanks you for your continued support. Things starting to fan out here as we work round number 12 of this season, the second to last race before the playoffs. And through this whole big gaggle here, which, by the way, through all of that fighting and through that break, Gautier, McFadden, and LeBombard have caught up. They have made up that 4.5-second gap, and we are going wild up here at the front.
Yeah, I was about to make the comment that these guys were gaining for about 5 straight laps on these guys. They had figured it out how to catch up to them. And they were straight up moving about 10 mile an hour faster than that lead pack at one point. So they were moving quite along. So now it'll be interesting to see. We have everyone together back again. Be interesting to see when we make these green flag pit stops here. And about, let's say, about lap 66 or so, how everyone does.
Joe Gautier certainly made it interesting there as he was on the extreme high line of that 3 wide and had a big lag spike on that number 67, so that always makes it fun for all parties involved. Now that he's gotten the internet settled down here for at least a moment, he's going to try to now push Mark McFadden up to the front.
Now it's going to be interesting to see. Now we got more people, of course, involved. We noticed how that front pack, as they were gaining that exponential run, those guys at the front, they were kind of worried there. They started to, fanning out, trying to get runs to be out in front because they thought Gautier, McFadden, and LeBombard, they were going to move up to the front. Now, that didn't happen because they were so spread out. It kind of killed their run. They had nowhere to go, along with Gautier's lag spike. But it'll be interesting to see here what happens as we get close to the green flag pit stops here. We saw them all pit together. But now you're not locked into pitting on one lap. You can pit earlier if you want to. Be interesting to see how this works. As look at this at the front.
Yeah, and you'd have to assume it's going to be fuel only here for these guys as Mark McFadden takes the race lead, hits the apron, goes to the middle. Yikes. Watch it, Mark. Everyone's good. Everyone's good. I said it. Everyone's good. And everyone is good.
I got to quit having these moments tonight.
Well, we've seen it enough here tonight, and these 8 have done a fantastic job of racing with each other since the last big caution back on lap 18. And that would be the last caution period, was the one on lap 18. And look who has come out of the pits after spending 34 minutes on pit lane. There is life in that Craftsman number 16.
That's incredible.
30.
So he needs to do about 13 laps to gain 8 positions here.
34 minutes, 15.22 seconds on pit road. I would go as far to say that is a personal best as far as pit speed. And I believe Nick Kessler, so that top group has broken up. Nick Kessler, John LeBombard, and Connor Trafari all in pit road here. So they've come in, decided to short pit, fill the trucks up with fuel. Looks like they've decided to take tires as well. And LeBombard's got to hurry up here, otherwise he's going to be left, and this is not the time where you want to be left.
Yeah, I think he's going to be left behind in the dust here. So now he needs to hope that those guys kind of just stay a little bit apart. He can catch up. But yeah, I'm going to say that John's a little too far. Now this will be interesting to see this front pack here. When they pit, if they can stay together and kind of leapfrog, those guys as well.
If I were John, I'd be screaming, hey, whoa, whoa, hey, just back up, hold on a second. Let me get with you. Just to say, you know what, I have a chance in this race. Please help me out a little bit. But it looks as though that is not going to be the case, as well. LeBombard has some company. I just don't know how useful it's going to be.
Yeah, that company is hurt. We can tell. You know, that company's only going to do so much for you. I mean, no disrespect to Ernie, but that car is not to the par that he started at this beginning of this race.
I will say that company is keeping pace with him, however.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So maybe that company will be worth something. As Ludwig with John LeBombard. LeBombard right now running in the 7th spot. There is Kessler 6 seconds up the road with Connor Trafari, and we know those two trucks are clean. And then here's the top 5. And that's it.
So you have to be thinking here, Kessler and Trafari, they are moving at the pace of these 5. They're pretty much lock in step with them, actually, if you look at their mile per hour at the end of these straightaways. So you got to think, where are those two going to come out at? You know, Trafari, we know, is not racing for position, as we mentioned in this race.
Here they come.
But you have to, oh, here they come. We're going to find our answer out pretty quickly. Oh, look at the speed Anthony has there.
Yeah, they went full out, as Anthony's going to be the one to lead them down. Gautier's there as well. Gets sorted out. We saw this in the majors race. And it looks like everyone's going to get into the pits well enough. It's McFadden. Wow, McFadden. I'm surprised he didn't stop short in his box there. There goes Gautier. So he's down and away after fuel only. These guys are going to come out well ahead of Kessler and Trafari. Show the track map here. Look for 4 and look for that 4 there. Oh, I thought they were going to come out well ahead because these guys only took fuel. They're going to be right there with them.
Yeah, they're going to be on the pace compared to these guys. Now, I think Anthony might be out well ahead, but those guys are going to have full steam ahead together, while none of these guys look like they're even close enough to really hook up yet.
And I was mistaken. Kessler, if Kessler took 2 tires, that was it. So only 7 seconds in the box for Kessler. Michael Anthony right now the leader of the race, but he's not up to speed. And trying to block Trafari. What in the world was that? And you can see there's Kessler showing some displeasure, and there goes Kessler.
Oh, no.
Kessler somehow keeps it off the inside wall. We stay green, but honestly, I'm on Kessler's side there. That was beyond ridiculous for Anthony.
There's a chance to block, and that when you have someone coming up on you 15 mile an hour faster, that's just not the time to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That was a little on the cheaper side there. So we'll take a look at it again here. Anthony's up here at the front. You can see the 48, the yellow 48, and the 4 of Kessler with a huge run. Anthony's still trying to make his way out of the pits and just jumps right into the middle of the racetrack. And yeah, Kessler swings down here and sideswipes the 8, but the 8 just turns dead right and spins the 4 there. And a great job from Kessler to keep it off the inside wall there, but I'm not necessarily in disagreement with Kessler there being upset with the 8.
Yeah, Anthony, he's in the middle of the road. You can be in the middle of the road, but there's certain battles to have there in that situation, and that's just not the time or really the place, if you ask me. Now, it kind of works out for Anthony. He's still attached to this lead group, but he could have latched on very easily to Kessler and Trafari and been a top 2 race. Now he's got 2 other guys in front of him that he's got to battle with.
Well, forget about latching on to those 2. The rest of the group was still coming. So that would not have been a concern. The concern was he went into the corner slower on the inside line. then moves up to the middle of the racetrack to block the runoff. Kessler gets into him. Kessler's upset, as I would have been as well. Makes a questionable move to sideswipe the 8, and then the 8 just flat dumps him.
And you have to realize, too, Anthony is not in a playoff position. As look at these guys at the front. Wilson got a little sideways. You know, Anthony, we discussed it, is not eligible for the playoffs.
And to be
Kessler
fair,
with the win
to
is.
be fair, no, Kessler's not because of
He's
Kessler
not.
has not. No, Kessler has not won, and I believe this is only his 3rd or 4th race of the season, so he's not eligible either. So to be fair, neither one of them are eligible, so it's not like he took him out of a playoff spot, but still, that's uncalled for whether or not it's a playoff race or not. But anyway, moving on, 11 laps to go here at Daytona. As this group of 6 here trying to work, Joe Gautier right now currently sitting with the race lead in that number 67. Off the front end of that truck, let's trying to find the proper camera. Nope, that's not it either. That's the one we're looking for. Looking off the back end of that truck, the 58-year-old out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Not only has the lead, but he has a car between him and 2nd place.
You got to think, this is kind of the prime zone to be at if you're Gautier, because, you know, Anthony, he is in 2nd place, but he kind of made an enemy out of 2 people there. He made an enemy out of Trafari and Kessler because the person he initially blocked was Trafari. So I'm sure Trafari's not going to cut him any breaks here towards the end of this race at all.
Yeah, that and Trafari also not racing for anything. He's already locked into the playoffs. He's multiple laps down. He's about 5 laps down. So he's not really racing for anything either. Is now Mark McFadden trying to push Brandon Wilson up on that outside line. McFadden with a nice push in that Hot Wheels number 71. As Gautier staying on the inside. And honestly, for Gautier, that's the smartest move. You have a clean truck behind you, one that's not going to race you because he's not racing for position. Just stick with that 48.
Yeah, this.
It feels like old. It
should
feels
be
like
interesting
old,
to the top.
Be having a little bit of connection issues with Nate there, as far as Discord goes, but it's starting to feel like old style super speedway racing, where it's if you're going to pass me, you got to do it on the outside. And Gautier's got to keep that car down there on the inside. Otherwise, Trafari is going to end up getting pushed through him. There's now Anthony and Wilson working the outside line. Worley goes with his teammate on the outside. And look at the push that Trafari is giving to Gautier.
Yeah, Gautier is in a pretty good spot, if you ask me. I mean, he is the leader of this race. He can pick which lane he wants to go to. It looks like he's sticking to that bottom lane, though, making him actually work that top side. But we saw early in the race is, a little questionable there by Trafari. It looked like he wasn't quite square. If you get hooked up on that top lane does work very well.
I mean, how many times have we seen it? Boy, Trafari getting out of shape there on the inside line. How many times do we see it in real life? That outside line coming out of 4, going through the tri-oval. They get one heck of a run. If you can time it right and if you can position yourself right, 9 times out of 10, it seems as though the outside line wins here. And Shane Posey's going to cause a lot of headache and confusion. Just does get off the racing surface as the leaders come around, coming to take 6 laps to go here at the line.
You mean 10 to go, right? Or it's actually 11, isn't it?
No, it's 6.
Wait, what lap are we on?
We are on lap 69. Somebody not live?
It says I'm live. Maybe I'm not live. I don't know.
The field now getting cycled back to single file here down the middle of the back straightaway. as Gautier and McFadden running 1 and 2 with Trafari in between them. Michael Anthony in third, Brandon Wilson and Ryan Worley, the two Dudes Racing teammates, at the back of this train. 5 laps to go here at the line. Nick Kessler, who we were talking about before, is not all that far away from these guys. He's in turn 1. We'll bring up the track map here. See the 67, that is the race lead. They are about half the back straightaway away from Kessler, and they will certainly be catching him at the tail end of this lap.
I can guarantee you Kessler has not forgotten what happened there. I don't think he's going to intentionally mess up these guys because Anthony is, of course, in the back, but, you know, that's got to be in the back of his head. These guys come by here. That could have been me. That should have been me. You know, and that stings for guys like in those kind of situations.
And for as far as retaliation goes, Anthony is in a pretty decent spot here. He's in the middle of the pack. It's not like he's at the front or the back of it where he would be more susceptible to something like that. So him being in the middle of this pack here might be the safest place for him, as there is Kessler just off the left-hand side of your screen. Joe Gautier still getting one heck of a push from Connor Trafari here for the race lead. It's the 67 and 71, two of the elder statesmen here in this series battling for the race win.
I figured out my issue, by the way, if you'd like to know. I was focused on Trafari, and
there
Trafari told me I was on lap a little bit behind everybody there. So crisis averted, guys.
There goes Shane Posey now on the outside line. McFadden gets shuffled out to the outside. That will give second place to the 8 of Michael Anthony. And Nick Kessler, now sitting a lap down, has stuck to the back end of this group. As now here comes McFadden. He has Ryan Worley on the outside of him with 3 laps to go, as Kessler working that outside as well. Worley goes to the extreme high side. Kessler battling with him. Boy, McFadden getting loose in the middle there. Boy, that could have been big. That could have been bad.
That could have been, yeah, that could have been, you know, green-white checkered there, but thankfully they kept it all straight. And now McFadden's got to regroup here, but he at least has an opportunity. He's still latched on to the back of Wilson here.
And the 4 of Kessler got held up by the 00 of Worley, who got into the wall. McFadden is going to use this run now here in the 71 to slingshot to the outside of Brandon Wilson, maybe to try to pick up a run. He's certainly going to be hoping for Kessler to help him out as Kessler starts to catch back up to this group. Coming through turn 3 and 4 for the second to last time, Joe Gautier still in the lead.
And you got to think, you know, is Trafari going to do anything? I doubt it. He's in a good position where he's at. So Gautier has a car buffer, especially with everyone still in the line there.
Absolutely. Coming down, white flag is in the air. Joe Gautier has a lap car between him and the rest of the field. The 8 of Anthony, the 71 of McFadden on the inside line versus Kessler and Wilson on the outside. Down the back straightaway, still only a battle for second position, as we would have expected. Anthony getting a little bit of a wiggle on the inside line, as Kessler and Anthony get together as we thought they would have. Everyone keeps it straight. It's going to be Joe Gautier moving up to the outside line. He's going to fend off Brandon Wilson. Joe Gautier wins round number 12 and punches his ticket into the playoffs. As, boy, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but you knew something was going to happen. Gautier, Wilson, McFadden on the podium.
And the weird thing there was Anthony gave up the podium, if you go back to the finish there, to brake check Nick Kessler.
I mean, we will take a look at everything that happened there on that last lap. But Joe Gautier was in the absolute best position you could possibly find yourself in, with a driver behind you not racing for anything. A clean race car, Gautier, that could not have worked out better.
Yeah, that's a dreamland situation when you have that, small numbers in your group. You have a lap car between you that's going to stick with you by the looks of it. I mean, that's incredible. That does not happen very often, especially in the super speedway leagues. So that's incredible that occurred. Good job to Joe for coming out with the win here.
Still treated to a wild finish, even with the amount of cars that we had here tonight. Let's take a look at the final lap here. This is the entirety of the final lap, and you're going to be following the 8 and the 4 here. Now, nothing's going to happen quite yet until we get to turns 3 and 4. Kessler is battling with the 501, or is pushing the 501. Now coming down the end of the back straightaway, the 4 and the 8 are going to get side by side. They're racing fine, racing fine, racing fine. Boy, what happened in 3 and 4, I think, looked like a racing incident. Like maybe the 8 came up a little bit and the 4 came down. Yeah, and you're right. It's Anthony just completely put the binders on, allowing McFadden to pass.
Well, that is interesting.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting night here as we will get ready for interviews here. As the waiting here for the top 3. And Nate, I believe you are with our race winner, Joe Gautier.
Yes, sir.
Well, Joe, that couldn't have worked out any easier for there at the end of that race, couldn't it have?
Oh, that was excellent, excellent.
So, I mean, you had Connor Trafari, who wasn't racing you guys for the win. He's basically kind of just a buffer car there at the end of that race. I mean, was there any communication with Connor? Hey, stay with me, be my friend, please. I would love for you to just kind of stay where you are.
No, sir, but I did push him to the front about halfway through, so I figured he would return the favor, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah, and it looked like fantastic that he did that. And a nice thing too is we're coming to the playoffs. This is a great opportunity to learn more and to help you out with your cause. I mean, does that anything with that kind of help calm the nerves down as we get closer to the end of the season?
Yeah, it does a little bit. I'm just getting a lot more comfortable with all the guys in this league, and it's a really good league.
Yeah, we saw the racing there, and I mean, it seemed like that first 2 incidents you managed to just sneak by both of those. I mean, talk us through your experience with both of those wrecks.
The first one, I went underneath. They all went above me. And then the second one, I slid down through the grass, and I barely got clipped in the right rear. I only had a couple seconds of repair. I got that done, and maybe just the rest was running the draft.
Well, cool deal. Well, we're here at the Cup Cars to finish off the regular season next week. I mean, what's your expectations for that race?
I don't know. I'm going to try and win. But also, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Circle B Diecast, Rowdy Energy, iRacing iFlag, Butt Kicker, and Midwest Motor Customs.
Well, that answers my next question. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Congratulations on your win tonight. Go ahead and celebrate it with the guys.
All right, buddy. Thank you. And from now on, my nickname's Cujo, if you'd like to know, sir.
All right, 10-4.
All right, guys. Thank you. It was excellent.
All right, so there was your race winner, Joe Gautier. And in just a second, we'll bring up Brandon Wilson, our second place finisher here tonight. As Brandon, I believe he's here now. Brandon, you there?
Yep, I got you.
All right, so you had one wild race, got caught up in, I believe it was the first big accident. Then we're kind of riding around from there on out, had some front end damage on the car. How much did that front end damage affect you in this truck tonight?
Yeah, it affected me pretty bad there for that first part because I could only get so much repaired underneath that pit stop that we had for the caution. And so when I fell back, um, maybe a car or truck link or two, it just died. I just lost the draft on that one time there. So, but it affected it pretty bad. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. 'Cause I had my teammates look at the truck. They said it was okay, but yeah, I guess I had more than I thought.
Now that last run, you had Nick Kessler pushing you for a good majority of that final lap there, and then he kind of fell off in the middle of 3 and 4. How much you said it was really difficult to after you'd fallen a couple car lanes behind. How hard was it to try to keep that outside line momentum going to get that second place tonight?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. I mean, I had it to the floor. I couldn't push it any further down, but I thought he was going to give me enough bump there to get me up there, but I'm not sure what happened. I just seen him wrecking back there behind me, so I knew at that point that, hey, settle for second because that's the best I could do right now because of the way the truck is. But I mean, I was trying. I know everybody was pushing me and doing what they could, but with just me being out there in the front with the front end like that, I'm just not going to go anywhere.
All right, we stay here at Daytona next week, the last round before the playoffs in the Cup car. What are you expecting out of next week's race?
Well, if they fix the package for the Cup car, it's going to be interesting. But if not, it's just going to be follow a leader kind of thing. And those things are just so difficult to pass on. I know everybody in this league is not a fan of that one right now until they get it updated. Hopefully they will. But if not, like I said, it's going to be like that. And also again for Monday night too, because we're going to be there in Talladega for Monday night race.
Anybody you want to thank before we let you go and celebrate a podium finish here?
Yeah, Circle B Diecast, Rowdy Energy, of course, I Race and I Flag, Butt Kicker, Midwest Motor Customs, and you guys as well for putting on a heck of a broadcast for us every day, or every week, sorry.
All right, there's your second place finisher tonight, Brandon Wilson. Bud, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
All right, so there was a squeaky second place finisher there in Brandon Wilson. We'll go now to Nate with our third place finisher here tonight. That will be one Mark McFadden.
Mark, Nate up here in the booth. You got a copy, good sir?
Yes, I do, Nate. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing well. Pretty good for yourself, I'd have to say, coming home with a podium here tonight. We talked in that first stint, after that first pit stop, you guys broke. You had a 3-car pack that was about 3.5 seconds off. And it took a while for you guys to catch that lead pack again. What were you kind of thinking there in that kind of phase of the race? Were you thinking you were going to get up to the front? Or were you kind of just hoping something crazy would happen?
No, I mean, I had a good guy in front of me. Joe was doing a great job of being pushed and leading the way. I kept my eye on the clock. I could see the first few laps took Joe and I a little bit to get coordinated together, but then we just started tracking them down and just run right up to them.
Yeah, and you guys caught up really fast, and then you kind of stayed together in that last bit. And coming to 2 to go, you weren't in that that initial front group there, but you managed to work your way and wiggle yourself into that top 3 position. Talk us through the last lap there. Talk us through how that went.
Yeah, I guess with about 4 laps to go, I tried to go up high and hoped somebody would come with me, but at that point they didn't, and I dropped back to 5th again. And honestly, I was going to be happy with 5th considering that first wreck. I did get caught up in it slightly, dinged up my left front fender. Took all the repairs I could. So unfortunately, the big wreck there probably hurt the show a little bit tonight. But I kind of feel the 5 or 6 guys that ran there in the group, including Connor, the lap car. I hope we put on a pretty good show for you guys. Best we could do, 5 or 6 cars.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. We had a good show up here, I'd say, in the booth tonight with, the limited cars we had there at the finish. But we go with the Cup cars here next week at Daytona. We've heard a lot of people comment about the package, how it's just not great for the racing at the moment. Talk us through what you're expecting for next week as we close off the regular season.
Well, you're right about that. They are pretty good on the short tracks. I ran them at Richmond this week, and the car was really good. But I haven't run it since the patch has been done. I don't know if it's any good. Again, all you can do is just hang on, hope for the best. I think I've got myself into a playoff spot now, so that was my goal.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, congratulations on your podium. Would you like to thank anyone here tonight?
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, of course, always thank you guys for the broadcasting, you and Frank, and I hope you guys had a great time up there tonight. I want to thank Diecast for everything they've done, and you can get from them tees and hats, all kinds of good stuff. And Butt Kicker, great place to go if you're a gamer. Check them out. Also, iRacing iFlag. This is a great little thing. I don't have one, but I'd like to get one. It's a pretty cool little deal. Midwest Sports, who've always been a great supporter of IES. Really do appreciate that. And support any of these people if you can, folks out there. Also, want to thank a couple of my fans that are hopefully watching. I want to thank Sally, probably my biggest supporter out there. She's 3,000 miles away from me, but I hope the snow's gone away, Sally. And I also would like to thank my friend Tony, who watches a lot of these races. And Tony, I know we spent 5 hours on the Mustang fixing it today, and I appreciate your time you put in for that. That was very much appreciated. And also a big shout out to Joe Gauthier for his win. Joe and I go back a long ways, so great to see Joe get a win.
Well, cool deal, Mark. Well, congratulations. Go celebrate your podium. Maybe do a little bit more work on the Mustang if you want to, I suppose. And we'll see you here next week as well.
Yeah, I spent enough money on it for now.
Well, take care.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, so that was your third place finisher, Mark McFadden, and that will bring us to the end of the night tonight. And Nate, 2 big wrecks unfortunately took out a vast majority of the field. We had 23 drivers start, and before we hit lap 25, we were down to 10. But those 10 put on a caution-free showing the rest of the way. A couple of little incidents here and there, especially between the 8 and the 4. A good night for racing overall as compared to, what it could have been. These guys did the best with what they were left with.
Absolutely. And you're going to get that with, no flash repairs, of course, tonight, which we saw those 2 massive wrecks at the beginning take out a massive chunk of the field. You will get that when you have no flash repairs, especially in a super speedway race. But like you said, the 10 that were out on the track tonight circulating, they did a great job to make it, as entertaining as it could for 50 laps of this race tonight. They did a fantastic job, and they really did do a fantastic job with what they had available to them.
All right, and with that, we will go to the final results here for tonight's race. And the winner tonight, getting his first win with the series, at least that I can remember, Joe Gauthier in the number 67, winning by 8/100ths of a second over Brandon Wilson. Mark McFadden rounding out the podium. Michael Anthony, Ryan Worley, the top 5 finishers. John LeBombard finishing in 6th, and the final car on the lead lap. Nick Kessler, Connor Trafari, Greg McConey, and Shane Posey round out the drivers that were still running and round out the drivers in the top 10. The rest that Nate is going to run through, all DNFs tonight.
Shane Newens, we saw he was part of that 10 initially, but he got caught up there in that incident as well, being lapped. He finished in 11th place tonight. Ernie Ludwig trying to turn some laps. He did gain about 8 positions off of doing that. He will finish in the 12th position tonight just by fixing the car and turning lap times there. Dustin Loxton, he'll finish the race in 13th place. Chris Worrell and Zach Borman. They were the two initial guys in that big wreck there, the second wreck. They finished in the 14th and 15th position. Dan Brazington also got caught up in it. He finished in 16th alongside Jason Papp and Marcus Adams, Cruz Hernandez, and Byron Rodney. They finished from 17th to 20th. They were all involved in that as well. And then the three that were done after the first initial crash tonight, Aaron Tribble came home in the 21st position. Zishan Nuera and GT Park, they finished in the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd positions, respectively.
And that is the night here from the Daytona International Speedway. Coming up, the remainder of this week here on ESPN. Unfortunately, we're in replay, so we can't show you the graphic. Tomorrow afternoon is going to be the E-Formula 3.5 Series. They will be at Virginia International Raceway, VIR, for round number 2 of their season, starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow afternoon, pardon me. Then coming up on Sunday night will be the Medieval Racing League at Phoenix. That'll be an 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time start for them. Then on Monday night, it'll be the Rowdy Energy Cup Series. They will be at Talladega for round number 10 of their season on the 26th. That will be an 8:20 p.m. start. The first of our doubleheader here on Tuesday will be the MX5 Series for UK Sim Racing. They will be at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Jake Sperry and James Whitehouse in the booth for that at 2:50 p.m. Eastern Time this Tuesday. Then the nightcap will be the Western States Racing League. I was wrong saying it was Canadian Tire. They're actually going to be at Michigan International Speedway. Ryan Williams and Ben Bruno in the booth for that, coming up at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday night. Then on Wednesday will be the double dip. It'll be the Endurance for Beginners GT Series, round number 4 at Sebring, starting at 8:25 p.m. Eastern Time, with Sam Cooper Bennett and Byron Rodney in the booth for that. And then you can join me and Tony Trapasso in the booth on Wednesday night for the nightcap. The Sim Racers Edge Alpha Series, round 11. They will be at Iowa Speedway starting at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Then coming up on Thursday night will be the season finale for the DOB Series. Both the 410 sprint cars and the big block modifieds will be at the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway to crown a champion coming up this Thursday night. Those festivities starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So for my broadcast partner tonight, Nate Siefker, I am Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. Have a fantastic night, everybody.